Welcome to episode 1 of Netcore's Retail and E-commerce Masterclass, designed to help you drive growth this holiday season. This masterclass is going to run every week for the next 4 weeks, and we hope to see you next week again for episode 2. If you do attend every session, you're going to get insights from a variety of perspectives to help you maximize your holiday season, and you're going to receive a certification from Netcore highlighting that milestone. Karen, if you hit us with slide 2. This masterclass is sponsored by Netcore and Netcore Unboxed. We work with brands across the globe to help them drive profitable growth by converting shoppers into buyers and ultimately long-term customers. Thanks to Netcore and Netcore Unboxed. But now I'd like to introduce you to Karen Talavera to dig into today's topic about finding your best customers. Karen is founder of Synchronicity Marketing and has been actively involved in shaping the email marketing industry since its inception. She's co-chair of the Email Experience Council and pioneered email marketing professional education for the Association of National Advertisers and the Direct Marketing Association. And today she boasts more than 20 years of teaching and training for leading organizations such as the Direct Marketing Institute, American Marketing Association, eConsultancy, and Marketing Profs. She's a great marketer and a great friend. Karen, thanks for joining us, and take it away.
Oh, thank you so much, Nick. And it's great to be back doing another Netcore Masterclass. Thanks for that wonderful intro. I'm excited to see so many brands in the Masterclass today. I've worked with some of the ones you see on the slide here. So I've kind of crossed paths, transiting across many different verticals and industries, which is a wonderful experience to have when we're launching this class with the topic of unlocking customer value and identifying segments that drive ROI, meaning who's your best audience and how do you find them? And then how do you deliver exceptional experiences? But before we get all the way into the weeds here, we want to get some feedback from you. So we're going to start with a poll. So you should see the poll pop up on your screen. Here's our question. Which statement best describes your company's, your brand's marketing plans for holiday 2023? Okay, so are you ahead of the curve, work in progress, maybe behind the curve, or not even thinking about it yet? Pick one of those options and we'll share the results once everybody weighs in. We'll give this just about 30 seconds or so. I'm seeing some encouraging responses, and I'm glad to see the majority are selecting one of the top 2 answers. That's a good sign, and hopefully our timing is perfect for you here. Okay, so we're going to have some more polls as we go, but let's dive in to our content for today. And we're going to start by talking about finding your best customers. And really begins by asking the right questions, right? Now, a lot of you on this call may have already done some deep dives. Some of you may have not. There is no perfect place to start. We're always evolving with this. But because this masterclass is geared heavily toward e-commerce brands, most of that's going to be B2C, we're going to be looking at shopping and buying behavior when we're asking questions about who our best customers are, such as what % of shoppers are one and done, right? They've only ever bought from you once. What's the average time to a second purchase or any repeat purchase? What about intervals between purchases? We also want to look at what categories people buy from. Most brands will have at least, a couple of categories. You may have many categories. So looking at category crossover and cross-category frequency is really important. We'll talk a little bit about process for some of this too. And then, of course, what about the cost to acquire a new customer and who your sources are or what your sources are for customers? So they certainly could be different digital media channels. Could be that you're paying more for certain customers than others, depending on whether or not they're coming from paid traffic, organic traffic, social media referrals, affiliates, Rakuten, or even offline channels. So we want to really ask questions about what people are doing when they buy from us, how often they buy, how long it takes for them to rebuy, what categories and products they actually purchase, and where they come from in the first place. Now, one and done buyers can be a real challenge because 60 to 80% of online shoppers buy just once. So, as e-commerce marketers, we want to know how to get them to come back and buy again and progress them down a life cycle from, one time, new friends, kind of tentatively trying us out, to long-term loyalists, if not brand advocates. These one and done buyers can be real profit killers, which is why there's everything in it for us to invest in developing ongoing relationships with them and moving them down a customer lifecycle continuum. They unfortunately contribute toward increasing cost of customer acquisition. So if all we're getting is one-time buyers, we have to continually, refill the pipeline, which could lead to declining return on ad spend and very limited shopper intelligence because we only have one transaction to analyze. So one of our goals is, again, if we're going to define best customers and quantify who they are, they're probably not going to be the one and done buyers. So let's break this down, these 4 questions. What about acquisition sources? What channel was referring someone either to a website or a mobile app where they made their first purchase? What offers did we have out there that motivated people to respond the best? And how much did we have to pay? Are we tracking? And ask yourself this question, are you tracking customer acquisition cost by source? If not, you should be. Once they come to us, we want to look at engagement behavior. And that's not just purchases, but how responsive they are in different marketing channels. Are they more engaged in email and social, in mobile? Are they responding to push notifications, to SMS? Where in the omni-channel spectrum, are they really responsive? And what lights them up? And then, of course, we're going to look at purchase behavior. And we're going to do a pretty deep dive today into the whole segmentation concept and science of RFM, which stands for recency, frequency, and monetary amount of purchases. That's really a bedrock of analyzing spend behavior. But beyond that, we're going to look at average order values, annual spend levels, and lifetime customer value, as well as intervals between purchases. Ultimately, getting to that goal of loyalty and longevity. So which customers, and if we could track it back to source, even better, stick with us over the long haul and ultimately become truly our most valued VIPs. They're responsible often for word of mouth, helping us get new customers, truly being advocates, if not ambassadors for our brand, and usually have a very predictable, if not high repeat purchase rate. Now, to analyze and understand all that, we need good intel. So this best customer acquisition criteria, is going to start with some of our broadly available first-party data. What is first-party data? It's data that we acquire directly and we own and we get to keep. So again, an email address, an opt-in, purchase data. We're going to look at which customers respond to these high margin offers, those offers we put out there that give us great, return, that give us a high profit margin. And we're going to look at which customers are coming in from sources where we have low and controllable ad spend. So that idea of best customer, really lies at the intersection of customers that are voluntarily providing us data, opting in, downloading our app, coming to us organically, responding to offers where, we're making a good profit margin and those offers are sustainable and repeatable, and they're affordable to acquire. In my mind, that's a great definition of best customer. So getting them to buy, of course, is job one, but channel engagement data is a very crucial part of this data mix of understanding, who best customers are based on the reach of different channels. So different channels, and you can see here represented by the size of the circles, are going to have different relative levels of reach in, the digital ecosystem, in the universe out there. Search is going to be one of the biggest, SEO, content marketing, affiliates probably going to reach a little bit, smaller universe. Online display ads, pretty large. For most brands, email provides a lot of reach, but it's not enough for us to just look at the activity in one channel. We want to understand omni-channel interaction. So which customers are our so-called best customers based on where they're most active and how much time do they spend in these different channels? And then in which channels does their engagement actually lead to buying? So social media might give us a huge audience that's very engaged with content, or very engaged in conversation, or very interested, in just interacting, in literally being social with other buyers of the brand. But does it result in actual purchases the way other channels might more directly do? And then let's pay attention to signals, right? So behavioral signals that we could really measure once somebody is interacting with us on our own digital real estate, on our own websites, on our own mobile apps, or mobile purchase points. How do they browse? What's their navigation path? Okay. And what specific actions, if we're tracking, that entire path, can we clearly see create a straight line to purchase? What's an early signal of what somebody might be doing on our website that indicates, hey, they're very likely to buy? Some of these that we've known about for a long time are obviously putting something in a shopping cart, which is why we have cart abandonment message follow-ups in email and SMS. But there are going to be many more, and we want that data. So just honing in for a second on customer purchase behavior, most of us are going to be, we're going to have this. It's going to be fairly integrated into an analytical platform, maybe a CDP, maybe an omni-channel messaging platform like Netcore. Even if it's not integrated, chances are you have it and it's fairly accessible and manipulable somewhere in your company. So RFM metrics stand for, again, recency, the freshness of customer activity, how recently they purchased, the frequency of their transactions, and of course, the monetary amount of each purchase. Using RFM to segment and to create cohorts, specific types of cohorts, in order to get to that best customer definition, is really where the rubber meets the road for a lot of brands. And this is not a new concept. It's been around for decades. But the great news is that the tools we have, the accessibility of the data, the flow of the data, the speed at which we can manipulate and analyze the data is better than it's ever been before. So this doesn't have to be a manual process done by data analysts or data scientists, that are spending hours and hours and hours trying to crunch through. Most tools will do it automatically. But RFM attributes are going to be specific to an individual person. They are directly tied to revenue. So while looking at channel engagement behavior and intent signaling is also important, this is going to be one of the most robust pieces of data that we can use to identify best customers, because it's predictive, because what people do in the past is one of the best predictors of what they're likely to do in the future. And of course, it's highly precise, measurable, and calculable, because we're talking about numbers. So what do you do with RFM? What do you do with this data? You build different customer cohorts. Step one to that is gathering these data points by customer and creating data tables. So an example of a very simple RFM table would be 3 cohorts, customer, not even 3 cohorts, but just listing actual specific transactions by customer. So as you can see here, customer A bought 53 days ago, most recently, has 3 transactions in whatever the set time period would be, and, has a spend level of $230. Customer B, has some different attributes, didn't buy as recently, but has more transactions. So we collect this in a simple, flat file that we can analyze, could even be a spreadsheet. We then want to create a scale for each metric to be able to start grouping customers into segments. And in this example, there are 4 what we would call quartiles, 4 segments, okay? You could create 3 segments, whatever you want your quantile to be. Could be 5 segments, could be 10 segments. You need to start bucketing the data, right? So if we're looking at frequency in terms of the number of days, we might say segment 1 is going to have a range of having made their most recent purchase between 0 and, maybe 40 days, segment 2, 60 to 80, segment 3, 90 to 100. Same idea for the number of orders. Okay, so the frequency, so we've got the recency, the frequency, and again, the monetary value. Once you see where you sort of have critical mass, it's going to get a lot easier to understand what these dividers should be. But we're going to create those buckets. We can then assign the different quantile for recency, frequency, and monetary to each particular individual customer record. So, we know the customer A is in the second recency segment, the second frequency segment, the second monetary segment. All right. And now we have a relative value for really starting to calculate this data and to tally customers. So as you can see here in the table, on the left, the blank table, we can now start mapping recency, frequency, and monetary and plugging in, the quantity of customers that are going to fall into each of these segments and subsegments. So, our top recency segment might be people that have bought the most currently. Top monetary segment might be the ones that are spending the most money. We want to see where the intersection of some of these actions are. And we know that, let's say, recency segment 1, these are the most active people as far as when they last engage with us. Recency segment 2 might be folks that are at risk and we need to reactivate or re-stimulate. Recency segment 3 might have transacted so long ago that they're actually churning. All right. Now, when we could start creating these segments, they naturally lend themselves to certain types of messaging, to certain actions that we're going to take. And a lot of those are timely when we get into the holiday period. Some of those, like a retention campaign or a reactivation campaign, we really should be doing now in the next 30 to 60 days before we get into holiday, because wow, if we can re-stimulate and prevent complete defection, re-stimulate some inactive customers before we start ramping up our holiday marketing messages and our promotional offers, then we've got more audience to work with at holiday time. We don't want to wait until the last minute. But we'll talk about some other strategies specific to holiday as we go. Now, how might we label, or assign a customer value to some of these segments? If we just look at, again, recency segment, let's say number 1, and we've got 4 frequency levels, we have these 4 monetary levels. We could start to see that our high spenders over here in monetary segment 4, who are recent and purchase quite often, frequently, those are really premium customers. Again, we're using quantifiable, specific, calculable data to make that determination. So anybody who's not in that lower right corner is still going to be valuable, a little less valuable. So, we might have our sort of silver, gold, platinum, if you will, levels, low, medium, high, whatever you want to call it. The point is to be able to assign that value to each individual customer so that we can select exactly who we want for different campaigns and different treatments. The way that cohorts based on RFM are often assigned leads to, this type of graphic, this type of visual representation, where we've got frequency and monetary score, mapped here on the y-axis on the left, recency along the bottom, okay? And, upper right is the most valuable area to be in. So again, those would be our champions. This is just another representation of what I showed on the previous slide, our real premium customers. The cohorts that are surrounding them, okay, have either great potential or also some value. Imagine, even if somebody isn't buying that recently, but they buy frequently and they spend a lot, well, we don't want to lose them. We may have some loyal customers in there. We might have some people that are monetarily valuable, but hibernating. And then we get into the middle and we've got those that need attention and need a little bit of a push. So the point of this is to really use quantifiable measures to identify who your best customers are so you can maximize their revenue impact and not waste resources on people that might be borderline for you. You've seen our second poll pop up. The question, does your company apply RFM to customer segmentation and messaging? So we'll give that about another, 20 seconds or so. And if anyone wants to put in the chat what tools you use to do this and whether or not you might be on a platform that will do this automatically for you or whether it's a manual process, we would love to see that as well. Okay, so some not surprising challenges of resource data flow coming up. Okay, last call for the poll question. Get on in there. We know there's more of you who haven't answered.
Seems like people are doing it sporadically.
Sporadically and simplicity. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Nick. I think a lot of that is, the tools we have to get the job done, because it's not necessarily easy. It's not.
And you highlighted it.
Yeah.
There's actually a question, and I was slow rolling it to the end, but it was right around this question. And do we need data scientists and analysts to actually accomplish this sort of stuff? And I think you hit on it a little while ago. In the past, we really did, to do beyond just the basics. And now, we do have tools at our disposal to make it much, much easier.
We have some that will we have some tools, we have some platforms that will almost do it for us. Someone still needs to interpret results. So the concept isn't difficult, right? It's always coming down to the getting it done.
Yep. And having ready access to the data too, which you hit on as well.
So what if we went back, to this kind of graphic and then prioritize these cohorts? What that might look like is by level of importance, top to bottom, that who your loyalists are. You have a segment called loyalists. They're high value. They spend the most. They buy a lot. They bought recently. Don't want to lose them. Probably going to give them some special treatment, not just at holiday, certainly at holiday, but throughout the year. You have those that you're going to nurture, hopefully up into that top cohort. Okay. You still have good customers. So think about back to the beginning of this, where would those one and done customers be? Okay, right? I mean, they're down here, maybe somewhere around never sticky or rarely sticky. Can they be migrated? That's the job, and that's the goal. And some of them will be, not all of them, but some of them will be, so one and done down here. I mean, again, a lot of these could be good, might need to win them back, but let's migrate them up the priority ladder here. Now, is your MarTech holding you back, right? For a lot of us, that is exactly, the sticking point. We have siloed customer data. It's not integrated with a messaging platform. It's not able to be analyzed or applied to the records in an ESP or in a marketing automation platform. So somehow we have to be able to match that in order to create our segments. We may even have good platforms, but they're siloed and they're not talking to each other. Lack of CRM expertise, again, does anyone kind of understand the fundamentals here? And of course, just the inability to actually execute on this. Like I said, the concept isn't really rocket science, but the getting it done, could be a little bit tricky. And we've got to have the time. I know with so many of my clients, and Nick and I have seen this for years, so many of us that are charged with getting the marketing campaigns out the door, right? Keeping the email, the SMS, the social media actually running are so in the weeds tactically that we don't have time to come up for air and think strategically. And again, execute on some of these more strategic initiatives like RFM analysis, cohort creation, persona creation, and so forth. So the question to ask is, are your tools, is your MarTech holding you back or empowering you? Now, if it's empowering you, you probably have great data integrations, if not a CDP that is hooked into other tools like an ESP marketing automation platform or analytics platform like Tableau. You probably have some analytics and data science that are part of that capability set. Might even be using predictive modeling and using even just RFM data, just those purchase attributes, to create models that will predict who's going to spend how often and when. And then the ability to apply, and activate all of that knowledge and intel to your acquisition efforts is truly gold. Because when you know who your best customers are, you know exactly what they look like, what they do behaviorally, you know how to find them, especially if you're tracking back to where they came from in the first place. So this should be a virtuous circle that between your tech tools and platforms, your intellectual knowledge, and the data itself, your analytical firepower allows you to continually find more of those high value customers. So the goal then is to engage them, not just in one channel, but omni-channel engagement. It starts by understanding, what's your true North Star going to be? And there's no right or wrong answer here. Is it customer lifetime value? Lifetime value, I've seen formulas and calculations for lifetime value that are all over the place. It can not always be easy to come up with that metric. But if you have an accepted definition, it's a great North Star metric to have. What about just repeat purchases? What about AOV? I love AOV. I love looking at it by quarter. I like looking at it by different customer cohorts, looking at it across the board, looking at it by channel. And again, going back to looking at it over different time periods, like quarterly for sure, first half, second half, full year, year over year. We want to have all these views. So whether it's, purchase frequency, short interval, long interval between purchases, understand what really is going to be that guiding star for you. Now, we want to activate omni-channel experiences to migrate those one and done buyers to repeat purchases, because universally, the more channels that somebody engages in with you, with your brand, the more likely they are to buy. And this is sort of direct response marketing 101. It's been tried and true from the beginning. The more touches a customer receives, the more likely they are to purchase again. The more channels that they can actually not only receive marketing in and interact and make, go through that consideration phase with you in, as well as the more channels they can actually buy in, the greater the likelihood that they're going to convert. All right. So if the mission is to drive frequency, get them to buy more often, obviously, we want to retain them. They're in the prime part of the retention life cycle. Those cohorts might be, we can't lose them, or they need attention, and we're going to give them some deadlines. We're going to create some urgency. some fear of missing out on our best deals, maybe some flash sales, okay, with the desired outcome of pushing them over that line to buy again. If the primary mission, however, is to drive up the average order value, let's get that increased. Then we're really moving somebody from just trying to keep them to making them truly loyal. So those are the folks that are the nurturers. And sorry about this, we had a font issue there, but you can imagine, they're higher up and to the right in the customer cohorts. Now, we might be giving them exclusive deals, discounts, or coupons, perhaps based on their cart value, dynamic deals that don't kick in unless they reach a certain spend threshold that we're not giving, to the general population of customers. So we've got different tactics for different cohorts, as well as wanting to touch them across different channels. So we wanted to just touch on a few examples before we, get to the wrap up here and Q&A. So we have, an anonymized example here of a large sportswear brand. Fashion and apparel is the category, okay? So you can sort of imagine the kind of company that this might be. It's renowned for innovative designs, commitment to performance and style. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, okay? Their challenges that they were unable to leverage transactional data. So again, think about that RFM, part of purchase data, to personalize communications and campaigns. They had a very limited array of customer segments. And, again, without really refining segments, if they're too general, then we can't create very specific offers that are going to move the needle and move people from one cohort to the next. And they had no strategy for converting shoppers into true loyalists or brand ambassadors. So they created what's known as a data lake, okay? They built schemas and data models to ingest large volumes of data, and to be able to do more detailed analysis, bringing in both transactional, demographic and behavioral data, and analyzing and creating segments by all of those different particular views. Now, all of those flavors of data are going to be integral to creating what's known as personas, customer personas, which try to answer the question of motivation. Not only do they paint a picture of who different customers are by demographics like age and gender, lifestyle, life stage, but they also try to understand, based on where somebody is at a particular point in their life or their customer life cycle, why they do what they do. What are they motivated by? In this case, would they be motivated by wanting the latest trends? One cohort might be, one persona might be. Another persona might be motivated by, I've got kids in sports and they need, new equipment and apparel and they're growing really fast. I need to replace, what I'm buying. Another cohort might be interested in high performance, okay? So those specific customer personas can be incredibly valuable, but they are a heavier lift to create. They started to develop predictive cross-sell, upsell, and customer reactivation campaigns and models, created to really generate customer lifetime value. So when you start to analyze purchase data across categories, you find correlations among, if somebody purchases a pair of athletic shoes, what they're most likely to purchase or to need next, and can craft campaigns specifically to guide them down that type of journey, or at least to make suggestions for where they should go and what they should do next. And then they planned, orchestrated, and created multi-wave cross-channel campaigns. The results, 4% increase in revenue, a 5% increase in wallet share per customer. This is a crowded category in fashion and apparel. I mean, we can imagine Nike, Adidas, Champion, Under Armour, the list goes on, So just gaining a small percentage share increase is huge in terms of revenue numbers. Now, I am not going to try to step through, this whole eyeful, but if you're in your platform creating omni-channel marketing journeys, it's going to look something like this. All right. And you can see some of the different channels involved here. There are email touches, there are SMS touches, there are web pushes, because we can certainly have modals and pop-ups happening, on a website. There could be in-app messaging. Okay. But the goal is to really sense and respond to every behavior and every signal that a customer gives us in order to determine what should happen next. So we'll set delays in some of these touches. We'll have conditional branches for some of these. The whole idea is to really think the journey through to the point of creating opportunities for customers to buy again, to spend more, or to respond to exclusive and specific promotions. It doesn't end with just making sure that you have the data and the science to identify your best customers and then are aligning the right messaging to them. At the end of the day, we have to deliver extraordinary consumer experiences, and consumers expect that now. They expect what's being referred to as the frictionless shopper experience. And they expect it to be seamless across devices and across shopping contexts. So if I am, on the website and then transition to my phone and then possibly go into a physical store or transition to the mobile app, that's what seamless really means. Your best customers not only deserve it, I would argue they demand it as well. So easier said than done, right? And more important than ever at holiday time, because people are under the gun. They're pressed for time. They want to get their gift shopping finished. They want to quickly and easily find what it is that they need, and they want to get the best deal, of course. So a lot of times they are literally switching digital devices or going from app to browser. They want that seamless shopping continuum. Like I said, they're pressed for time. They're under the gun. They expect that if they switch devices or switch platforms midstream, they'll be recognized. They might not want to have to log in again. Okay. They might not want to have to, go through 3 modals again, or sign up or go hunt for an email with a deal. Whether it's just online seamlessness or online and offline, they also expect to be able to find the merchandise they want and know where it will be. So, of course, at holiday time, some people, yes, not everyone's just buying everything online. They're going to go into a store. They need it immediately. They can't wait for something to be shipped. So they should be able to find which location has, the right products and how much inventory. Now, even though it isn't a e-commerce example, just think about whether your digital touch points are this consistent, the way they would be through, for example, Airbnb. And most people don't really do, Uber through a browser, but I would say they're also incredibly omni-channel consistent. Whether you're browsing through an internet browser, on a desktop or a laptop, or whether you're on the go on your phone, you should be able to see the exact same inventory, have a similar functional user experience, or if you're even interacting with email that's going to come after, for example, a browse session or a near booking session, or for example, on Airbnb, when you book, your booking isn't always approved right away, but you're going to get email confirmations. Similar content, similar messaging, important information is easy to find. So Airbnb is very good at measuring those signals, from their customers and knowing whether somebody has even logged into an account or is browsing as a guest. They are not going to waste any time between a browse session and an email follow-up, between a booking and an email follow-up. And there will be multiple journeys that lead into one another, whether it's the journey from prospect to purchase or it's a post-purchase journey and everything that the customer is going to need to know after they book. Ask yourself, can you support a connected, seamless shopping experience, especially from mobile to web? And what would that look like? What types of messaging through what channels are going to come after mobile interaction versus after website interaction? Are they the same? Are they different? How do they need to be different? You know, if someone's interacting through the mobile app, maybe you're going to lean more heavily on SMS versus email. Maybe you're going to double team it and do a little of both. Have you planned that journey and have you drawn that flow out, as we saw in one of the example slides? So we have a final poll for you before I end with some holiday marketing considerations. How many of you are adjusting segmentation during the upcoming Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday marketing period? And if so, how are you adjusting? So what we see a lot is companies either expanding or contracting the universe of customers, and especially email subscribers that they want to be contacting. Some of them say, I think I have a lot of dead weight. I'm only going to go after my most active, either email list members or actual buyers. Some go the other way and say, hey, holiday's a time where I've got some great deals, and some people are only once a year gift buyers, so I don't want to miss anyone. And that's what we're asking for here. So yeah, it's encouraging for me to see a lot of you are broadening your segmentation. A few are using actual metric signals from channel engagement, you know, how engaged somebody is in a specific channel to decide whether or not to message that way. We'll give it another couple of seconds here.
Seems like most are broadening a little bit,
Yeah.
at least, and using engagement, which is good, but still some not adjusting at all.
Mm-hmm. Last chance for the poll. Yeah, it's interesting too, Nick, that if you're broadening segmentation, I mean, there could be a kind of integrated play opportunity for reactivation and win back.
100%. And there's actually a good question. We're going to hold. There's a question about reactivation too, which is we'll slow roll that one because we'll get to it in a minute. But
yeah, I saw it.
100%. And I think, you know, when people are buying gifts, it's good to keep that into the model. Oftentimes I think marketers get very prescribed in a personalization strategy, and we gotta, you know, keep in mind that you know, the same person who may buy you know, men's shirts all year long is going to be buying, you know, women's dresses during the holidays and things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people may cross categories far more often during holidays, so it's helpful to look at their holiday behavior even separately from non-holidays. So, you know, if you're tracking by quarter, I mean, what's happening Q1 through 3 versus Q4 might be an aberration or a departure.
It's yep.
Yeah.
Broadening it out makes sense to me too.
Agreed. So we want to leave you with some holiday marketing considerations, right? And obviously, targeting the right segments, customizing efforts is important. Personalization, you know, kind of goes without saying through all of this, that if you know who your different customer cohorts are, that you're not only able to gear specific offers and messaging to them, but you know enough about these people to really be able to dynamically personalize, whether it's by name, whether it's by other attributes you know about them, such as where they live, demographics, gender, age, okay, to create that resonance and create that connection. But it still helps to define and identify the most active customer segments and consider whether or not some of your holiday messaging is going to land better with actives than inactives. There's also a cost component to this. So do you want to maybe send everything to your actives and not necessarily every touch to your full list? Just as some food for thought, here's a great simple definition of what a lot of companies will use as they're defining their most active customer segment. They are subscribed to your email or SMS, and they have done so within the last 6 months. Now, we include that because they may have signed up in the last 6 months to start getting messaging, and they haven't purchased anything or done anything else. They have then engaged with some of that messaging through a very trackable action, known as a click. Okay. We don't want to focus too much on opens. We know opens can be skewed, but if they've clicked on a link in an email or an SMS or a push notification, that's something we can definitively measure. And if they've done that within the last 6 months, great. If we could kind of just remove the polls from the screen, that would be great. They keep popping up for me. They've purchased within the last 12 months. Okay, so these are all or conditions. They're a relatively new subscriber, maybe haven't done anything else. They have clicked on a marketing message within the last 6 months, or they've purchased in the last 12 months. In addition to that, if you have a loyalty program, single out those members as VIPs for top tier treatment, okay? And give them something exclusive around holiday time that other tiers are not going to receive. Identify reward past purchasers, okay? Thank them for their loyalty. Recognize that unlike people who might just be on the list and haven't ever bought yet, these folks have actually transacted. So give them something like a holiday gift with purchase, extra savings, and invite them to come back again if necessary with a specific offer. And why do we do this? Because we already know one size fits all messaging should not and cannot possibly resonate with all of these different cohorts. We can't talk to everyone the same way. What motivates somebody who needs attention is very different than what motivates somebody who's a potential loyalist or a true champion. We know that repeated high volume sending, especially to the lost or about to go to sleep or hibernating, some of these inactive segments, can also really drive up our cost to send, even though it's still very affordable, obviously, to send email. SMS is a little more. But they could tank our metrics, okay? Which is exactly why a lot of brands will focus on just sending to actives over holiday time and weed out or come back to later, some of these less active or potentially defecting segments with a win-back campaign. Watch overall send volume at holiday as well, because inboxes are more full than ever. Everyone's sending more, and there could be restricted, or there could be higher deliverability restrictions, and ISPs can really kind of pull back the throttle on delivering email to the inbox or delivering it at all. Holiday is a good time to touch segments that maybe don't get as many touches through your regular programs throughout the year because they're less active or they're in some of these lower value cohorts. They also might be just seasonal buyers, but closely monitor and adjust if needed. So if you're having a deliverability issue, for example, by mailing less active segments, if they're just, not taking any measurable action like an open or a click, and they're certainly not buying, then you can always scale back. But we really want to focus on these segments, with the green circle. I mean, these are the low-hanging fruit folks that, like I said, deserve customized, personalized, special offers, and pushes. We kind of have the cautionary cohorts. We don't want to ignore them completely because, like I said, might only be seasonal buyers or gift buyers, but we want to be careful and monitor these segments circled in the red.
Yeah. And Karen, maybe there is a question now around reactivation, and maybe it's good to take it while we're looking at that last slide, because some of those segments, and you hit on it at the top, these hibernating, about to sleep, this lost segments are ones that right now on, the summer, late in the summer, we should be focusing on reactivating, right? Like to get them, move them up into the upper right for the holidays. And there's a question here about just any tips or tricks to do that, or, strategies or tactics around reactivation. And I have a couple, but I'll defer to you first. Anything you've seen in the past that's worked to really
tips and strategies for reactivation. Aside from hard offers, promotional offers, discounts on sales. Well, yeah, one of them is if you're going to go the promotional discount, try to get, because the best way we want to reactivate people is to get them to come back as customers and transact again. So that usually means a monetary offer. Put a deadline on it. Okay. Limited time. Create that sense of urgency. Now, the step down from that level of reactivation is, hey, I just want to know if they're still active in the channel. Like, are they still interested in getting my messaging? Do they still want email? Do they still want SMS? Are they even in the market? So a lot of times a true win back, like purchase win back campaign, will step down into a re-engagement and re-permissioning campaign that asks people, hey, in or out, what would you like? And please unsubscribe if you're no longer interested, because if we do all of that and we get no response, then those folks are truly asleep, right? Lights are on, nobody's home. It's probably time to suppress that segment, unless you ever pick up a signal that they have truly, shown a sign of life by probably a purchase, even if it's an offline channel.
Yep. Makes good sense to me. And I would just add quickly, I think, and we have a session, another masterclass on August 23rd, digging into this specifically, but doing something just vastly different. People went inactive for some reason or another, sending the same stuff you've been sending. If you do something, subvert the paradigm, send something completely different. One of those things you can do is lighting up audiences with inbox commerce, interactive messaging powered by AMP for email, and that's an interesting reactivation strategy. Again, we'll dig deeper into it on August 23rd, but and we do have several more questions here. So
I do see this one question. The segment definitions, will they hold true for all brands, or will they change for a fashion brand or a jewelry brand? No, these are universally true as far as the cohorts that we mapped based on RFM. If there's e-commerce involved, if there's purchase, and usually again it's consumer, then that stands.
Another one here about the journey orchestration module looks sweet. Does it require any technical expertise to operate, work with it? Is it native to all omni-channel vendors? I believe they were referring to the journey orchestration you were showing as an example of the customer engagement module in Netcore, and doesn't require any technical expertise, is a graphical user interface on customer journey orchestration. Love to dig in deeper with that person on that.
A lot of those are just simple drag and drop. You pull your designated campaign or touch into the journey, decision points, delays, usually really easy to set up.
And oftentimes, incorporates AI around next best channel or send time optimization or things to help just automate and optimize the customer journey there. Some good there's a question in here, a good question about AI and the role of AI here to find bigger customers and or segmentation and or generative AI, which I think interestingly, obviously a hot topic now. Your thoughts, Karen, on just how AI plays a role in RFM and or just finding best customers and activating?
Wow, I really think it's sort of exploratory, pioneering days. To get AI to do that. I mean, if I don't know a particular tool that can ingest large amounts of customer data, or I should say, I don't know a particular AI tool that can ingest large amounts of customer data and process it. I'm sure there probably is one,
Well, I think getting to like predictive segments and likely to likely to churn, likely to subscribe, likely to convert. There's certainly, are some models there for sure. And I think, as just the generative AI engine continues to gain steam, with all these segments that we're addressing, they need content, right? They need messaging, individualized content. And likely moving forward, I think there probably is a role of just, generative
I
AI
think there's
helping
a
to support
huge
that
role.
personalization. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that AI capability will be baked into existing tools, but yeah, if you could find one, load a simple, customer RFM or data table, purchase data table, and say, hey, analyze this, find my best customers and tell me what to send them. The AI will probably have something to say. It's all about how good, the directions are in the first place, as we know with AI. How good is the query, right?
Yep. No doubt. No doubt. We're looking right now at our most recent retail retention playbook, a guide that we've just published at Netcore around finding and retaining your best shoppers. A great resource. I think the link is now in the chat too. Before maybe is it the next slide where we have the upcoming master classes? Because and we appreciate the questions. If we didn't get to there are a couple incremental questions. We got 1 minute left, so maybe not getting to them, but we will reply on email. And please do stay tuned. We are going to be running these master classes every Wednesday. Have a bunch of incremental experts coming up to dig into additional tactics and strategies to maximize the holiday time. It is a critical time. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. And Karen, thank you so much for joining. It has been a pleasure. And and thank you.
And likewise, thank you for having me. And please, anyone on here, reach out directly with your questions.